Okay, so this is round one. Let me slow this down a little bit first. This is round one of the most recent tournament, Danny versus Sheamus. So Danny on the left, and then Sheamus, very handsome, very good posture on the right. Starting by summoning Fenrir, which is an inherent summon. Playing very fast, no slow play. So summon Fenrir, inherent summon Fenrir effect to add another Fenrir. So playing that mini engine, which is good like a good flex card because it's good going first or second, kind of like talents. Then activate Scream, summon Merly. So that usually indicates that you don't have a Shaylin or some other discard outlet, and so you want to get a mill six by going Scream into Merly, which is often why many tier decks play multiple Screams, because you don't just want to mill it, you also want to use the on-field effect. We have Kelbeck activating in the grave, and Shaylin activating in the grave, and Danny will chain his Magnuma in response, targeting the Shaylin so that it cannot be used as fusion material. Um, but I have a Medora in grave, so I can banish Medora and target my own Shaylin and shuffle it back so that his Magnuma doesn't resolve, because it has to banish to be able to summon itself. And Magnuma is the one that you are most incentivized to stop resolving because that's the plus one. It's not like Sarnair or Juris Worm that don't do anything immediately. So I do have to shuffle it back, which means that I'm not going to get the fusion, but Kelbeck is going to resolve. And we'll see what I get off of that. Danny also mills a swap, Juris Worm, Beaver, Smashers, and Talent, so nothing super relevant there. If there was like an Angler that was milled off of that, that would be bad because he'd be able to special the two Beavers. Um, and it looks like I'm deciding that Rhinoheiter is in German, so I was just reading over it carefully, deciding whether I can trigger Rhinoheart or not. Um, the only thing that I can do with my current field would be like make a sprint effect, dump Merly, and then Merly effect fuse with Merly in itself to go into Kit Kalos, but that's not at all ideal because I would have lost my Fenrir. So yeah, using Rhino Heart's effect, and I guess it was Havness that I pitched. We're going Havness one, Rhino Heart two. So Rhino's gonna dump a tier card. Havness is gonna fuse. And then if I want the card that I dump off of Rhino can be triggered in a new chain link if I want to fuse again after that. But this may just be like a very simple end board of like making Kit adding crime, and then sitting on crime, being able to maybe trigger a Tyrannim in hand. I'm not sure. Couldn't actually see what the hands were. But anyhow, summoning Kit Kalos finally. So after dodging the Magnamut, we still have a way to get to Kit Kalos. Let's see what this searches here. Yeah, so that does search the crime. I was maining one Sulik, one crime for this tournament, which is good if you win the die roll. Otherwise, it's not very good. I think maybe playing multiple Suliks is not sure if it's better or not. Might try that. Daddy obviously does not have hand traps because normally you would save them for the Kit Kalos, and he, no imperm, no Veiler, nothing like that. So the kit resolves, and I do add crime, and then I can't remember what was in my hand. I think it was kind of awkward. I didn't have like a huge amount of tier engine, so now I'm trying to figure out like, um, am I just gonna like make an elf or a sprint, or what's the play here? Looks like I do make a sprint because I haven't used Merly yet. So sprint is like the standard extender where if you have a Merly on board, you can always make it and dump another Merly and be able to get into a fusion. And I make so normally I would make Rukalos because Kit would be engraved, so Kit and Merly can shuffle back and make Rukalos. But because he's playing Spright, I don't want him to be able to like normal summon and then get his engine rolling. So if he normal summons, I can drag Stapelia, make it level one, and then the sprites in his hand are not live, and he's already used his normal summon. So I believe that that is what happens here. So he goes normal summon, swap. I can't remember if he used effect, and I change Stapelia and make it level one to turn off his sprites in hand. But he does have starter, um, so he can continue. And I have a crime for the Magnamut, I guess. So starter resolves, and he summons blue, blue effect. I do have a Scream up, and I do control a Tear card, which means that since he's summoned, I can mill three. So I mill, I believe that is Shaylin, Havnis, and Medora. So that means that I should have some options. I can't see what's in the grave. I don't have a fusion in grave. Dragon's Belly has already used this effect, so I don't think I'll be able to make Rukalos unless I go like I use both names, um, make it Kalos, and then before Kit can trigger, make Rukalos. But it looks like I go for Kaleido because I have a Rhino in grave. And then Kaleido can trigger on summon to shuffle back the blue. So yeah, he scoops there. So basically, just to like go over the situation, right? He summons Swap, which is a level two that keeps all the sprites live in his hand, and I use Dragostelia. I target the swap. The swap becomes level one to turn it off, which means that he must have starter like that. He has to have starter in his hand, and he activates starter. I had Crime the Magnemite, so the starter resolves for him to get blue. And it doesn't matter what he searches off of blue because since I can make Kaleido and spin back the blue, he's used his normal summon and he's used starter. So even if he has another starter in hand, he has no way to turn on the thing he searched off of blue. So he actually has no possible play that he can make. So that's the end of game one. That's basically just like going over how like what Spright needs to get started, and then making sure that the engine can never begin instead of allowing him to get rolling and then trying to deal with that later. So game two, Danny goes first. He starts with starter. There are actually some cool combos with starter because you're not starting with your normal summon, and you can like have like a beaver, like some pretty cool plays with that. But so far, starter for blue adds jet, had red in hand, so specials jet, specials red, add smashers with jet. So normal stuff right now. I don't think that I was playing. I think maybe aside from Imperm, I wasn't really playing hand traps. So he dumps the angler, the standard Spright play. Off of sprint, he dumps the angler so he can get to beaver. So the standard plus play. I think against Spright, my siding in stuff was like Super Poly and Dark Ruler. You can choose to play around the Super Poly with Spright, but your end board will be a little bit worse. And because Super Poly is not super popular in meta right now, I was thinking also people who are playing Spright may not play around Super Poly. Yeah, nothing really much to commentate on the Spright side. This is extremely standard stuff. And then he'll just end up making Elf and bringing back the swap in the grave to make Toad. And the main thing I'm thinking of here is like, if I have Super Poly, is he gonna play into it by having Toad on field and using Toad's effect to special summon another frog in my standby phase? Like, is he gonna bring out the dupe, for example? So I think I know that he has Smashes set. So he has Elf, a red, and the red can tribute Gigantic, which means that he doesn't just have a monster negate, but he can also destroy the monster. And he has Toad. So right now, he has a decent board, but he hasn't played into the Super Poly with the frogs. However, the Elf and the red are both Fire Thunder. So I Super Poly those into Garura. This isn't as good as it would be if he had played into it with the frogs, because then you can use both of the frogs. There's no Toad on field, and then you can attack over Elf in the battle phase because Elf can only use this effect in the main phase. And I think I had discarded Kelbeck off of Super Poly and used Kelbeck's effect to mill 5 on both sides, and he uses his Toad to negate that Kelbeck. But I have Havnis, so Toad was activated on field, even though it's currently in the grave, so Havnis can activate, and I mill Shaylin, Dark Ruler, and Fenrir. So that means at the very least, I can go into a Kick Kalos if I want. So Garura not doing a huge amount right now. That gigantic Spright is at 3200 attack. Make it Kalos, so the engine is now currently rolling, but I do know that he has Smashers. So he still has some way to play around something, but it won't leave him with a ton of resources. But you know, he's able to like Toad add back. If he has Beaver access, he might still be able to get a play going next turn. So it means that just like a Super Poly isn't enough. You actually want to try to end the game here or completely clear all of his resources so that his follow-up is lackluster. And the Keldo that I have here, so I can pitch an Earth Fairy to special summon it and add another one, and I add a Guido to hand using Kit's effect. Now I haven't played against Double Cross yet, but I think he's trying to attach it as material, so that Kit can't resolve because Kit would have to be like popping itself to special summon Tear from hand or grave. But yeah, he uses Double Cross to attach it, and now this means that I think I know almost everything. So he has Gigantic on field. He has Smashers set. He has a Beaver that he added back in hand, and then I guess one unknown card. So and yeah, he. So now I'm milling three off of Merly. We do get a Rhino. If there's material to discard from hand, I could bring Rhino back. But looks like I don't. So I don't have a tier name to bring Rhino back. So I use Merly and Garura to make Sprint. Um, I guess we are going to go Sprint 1, Garura 2. So we get a draw and then dump Merly. But I just wanted him to cut first because I had to draw first off of the Garura. So let's see. The Merly that I've dumped off of Sprint is going to trigger. Obviously, he can't use Smashers on the Sprint because the Sprint is a trigger effect. So it's not like he can make me miss timing or something like that. And the Keldo, by the way, the Ishizus that shuffle back, they can banish not just from grave but also from field. So if anything comes up, I can banish the Keldo from my field. And the reason I made Dragostapelia here is I wasn't sure how to attack over the Gigantic, but the Gigantic's effect to gain is an effect, and Dragostapelia can negate that, which means it would go back down to 1600. I did have an Agido in hand because I added it off of I can't remember, of Keldo, and so I could pitch the Agido off of Shaylin and then be able to mill five. And then because a Scream went, I can also add a trap. So yeah, we mill five on both sides. He mills some hand traps. Ash is not amazing against tears, but it's you can always use it at least because if they use like Shaylin or something, then because it sends to the grave, you can still be able to Ash it. But he didn't end up drawing an Ash. Yeah, so I think what we were double checking right now if the Gigantic's effect to gain attack is a continuous effect, which it is. So I want to use Dragostapelia to negate his effect to attack over it, which means he would maybe not be able to use the Smashers. But he activates Smashers, I believe, in response to the attack, banishes Starter from Grave, and now I want to see what he's going to banish. So he's going to banish the Gigantic off the field, and he's going to banish my Dragostapelia, which is obviously one of the most high impact cards against Spright because of the level modulation, not just the effect negation. Now I have a Sprint on field. This gives me the opportunity to make a Time Thief Redoer because I would have a Shaylin who can be detached for effect and trigger itself in his turn. But also because of Sprint, there's this effect where you can if you have an XYZ material, sorry, if you have an XYZ monster, you can use Sprint's other effect. So standby phase, I get a trap off of a Time Thief Redoer. So Danny's obviously not too happy about that. Very nice. So the trap is the one that allows you to place a card your opponent controls on the top of their deck. So yeah, he goes normal summon Beaver. I think he's activating Beaver effect, and I don't know if it was a Sulik that I had searched off of Scream, and that's what's set. But I don't actually have a tear card on field, so I wouldn't be able to resolve Sulik. I would just be flipping it for no reason. I think it's a Sulik set. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I searched it. So yeah, Danny, he specials the Angler, the Nimble Angler from deck. So now he has two level twos. Now, because I don't read, I use I use Sprint's effect, and I thought that it was attaching his Angler to my Time Thief, but it actually just bounces it to hand. So that's just like a typical Yu-Gi-Oh player move right there, not having read the card. And anybody who's gonna comment or laugh about this, by the way, just wait until you're on feature table, dude. So yeah, anyhow, Danny has blue in hand, so specials blue, blue search jet, the standard thing that blue almost always does. I have not used Time Thief yet. So now we activate Time Thief. He has two monsters on field. I think the other cards in hand are not known because that's the beaver that he added back off of Toad, which was the last public knowledge. So Time Thief, both effects will activate. We return the blue to the top of the deck, and we're banishing Time Thief so we can trigger Shaylin. And this might be a good time to make oh, I was gonna say Rukalos, but we're gonna make Kaleido because he's already normal summoned the beaver. He's normal summoned the beaver, which means that it puts him in the scenario where unless he can starter, he actually cannot get another monster on the field. So this is like basically what I did last game as well, where instead of relying on effect negation, I'm using things to shuffle back what he has so that he can't special summon. He uses talents to draw, which means that he didn't have any play, so it's not like he can take a monster I have. I mean, maybe if he had a monster in hand that could be special summoned by having a link 2, he could have taken the sprint and then special summoned a Spright monster from hand and gone into Gigantic. But I guess he just didn't have it. So yeah, that's game one of this tournament. It's a 2-0 to Ishizu Tear. Okay deck, not too bad.